Kingdom Brook is located right next to a Class II road in Windsor County, Vermont. Kingdom Brook is a meandering brook that travels from the top of the hill and flows into Echo Lake, Lake Rescue, and Lake Pauline. From Pauline, it travels into the Black River and into the Connecticut River to the Atlantic Ocean. The reach that I will be studying is from the bottom of my driveway to the intersection of the four corners, where there is a culvert. Kingdom Brook starts at 1,725 feet and ends at 1,050 feet. The section I will be studying is from 1,300 feet to 1,200 feet. This reach has some pools and riffles, as well as lots of rocks and silt that is flowing into the lakes. In 1972, a flood that came through washed out the road, and the road was rebuilt. Again, in 2011, it was also washed away, and yet again the road was rebuilt. The banks of the brook were moved back to the location of where they were before Irene. Along the reach that I chose, there are only 3 houses, one house on the hill to the right, and 2 across the road on the left. There are no crops that use this brook for a water source. There is no agriculture in the area. All the trees and wildlife that surround it use the watershed. Kingdom Brook is a headwater, second-order stream. The stream type for Kingdom Brook would be a type B. The banks are entrenched and contain lots of boulders and bedrock. There are waterfalls over the bedrock and boulders that are present. The sediment that was transported down when Irene came through has all dissipated. The water has returned to a clear and clean state. The channel is 4 feet wide and only 4 to 6 inches deep in most locations. The deepest pool was 1 foot. The entrenched banks are 18 feet on the side of the road, and the hillside at Bankful is 9 feet. One part of the brook where the water washed out part of the hillside was 32 feet. There were signs of asphalt up on the hillside. Kingdom Road is the floodplain for Kingdom Brook. There is only one time in my life that I have seen the brook reach its floodplain, and that was during Irene. The slope on the other side has no real access to a floodplain. It will either go over the road or wash out parts of the banks on the hillside. There are some areas along the brook that have more access than others, although it would still reach the road. Kingdom Brook is located in the southern Green Mountains. The community type is hemlock northern hardwood. There are lots of vegetation on the hillside, and some on the other side of the road. On the hillside there are lots of sugar maples, yellow birch, beech, and spruce trees, along with low-lying ferns. After Irene, the only low-lying plants are ferns. On parts of the hillside there are pines. On the other side of the road there are pine trees as well as all the others I mentioned before. There were some nests that I found. They looked like caddisfly cases, and one was very woody. There was no form of algae to be found, but that could have something to do with the new ground that the flood changed and moved. The reach has a lot of woody debris along the whole area, which makes great habitats for the frogs that are all over the reach. The Kingdom Brook does not have a fish population living in it. There is wildlife that is all around the brook. I found deer tracks, and I have seen bears, coyotes, moose, foxes, fisher cats, and beavers. There were slugs and salamanders along the brook. From this information and the look of Kingdom Brook, I would say that it is healthy with a small amount of nutrients in it. Kingdom Brook has 3 small culverts that let runoff from the other side of the road drain into the brook. It has one big culvert that goes under a road and the brook flows through. The reach that I was learning about has boulders arming the banks on the side of the road to try to keep the road from washing out. There are no human-made dams, just one dam that was made by the water moving trees down, and they got caught in the boulders that are holding the road back. The biggest impact to the floodplain would be the road that runs alongside of the brook. During Irene, the floodplain was reached and washed away. Large boulders and the water made a new way through. which was over the road, and blocked the big culvert that goes under the road. The sediment was moved up and over. There was no human removal of any riparian vegetation. The flood that came through washed that away with the rest of the area. There is some development along the brook, but none that interferes with the water supply. By the culvert there was some dredging done, which allowed the water to flow through the culvert again. There are many streams, brooks, and rivers that flow in Vermont, and Kingdom Brook is just one of the smallest streams that flows. It is a healthy brook that drains into Echo Lake and finally into the Black River. It has diverse riparian vegetation and will regrow itself in time. The brook is well shaded for the animals to be able to drink or catch the water animals that live in and around the water. The water is clean and flows in a pool-riffle combination throughout the reach. The main use for this brook is just to help the animals and look nice.